So I haven't uploaded in a while, and I thought a good way to get back into it would be to do a swap in research with Andrew, a good friend of mine who runs a blog by the name of Turngren Philately. We've both been sharing tons of information regarding our collecting interests, and I wanted to promote his work for some time now. He offered to send me some material from the country he specializes on, which is Austria. And in exchange, I'll be sending him some Bulgarian stamps that he could talk about on his site. So, let's see what we can learn about Austrian stamps on today's episode of Feature Philately. Nowadays, Austria and Hungary are two separate countries that are small and have limited influence in Europe. However, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, both nations had more territory and were much more powerful, despite the many ethnic and political problems the empire had. The first stamps that I wanted to show feature Franz Joseph, the last emperor of Austria and king of Hungary. He also was, and bear with me here, the king of Bohemia, Dalmatia, Croatia, Galicia, Illyria, Slavonia, and on top of this, he also had varying degrees of ownership and authority over 30 other territories. This just goes to show that there were all kinds of ethnicities with different interests within the borders of Austria-Hungary, making the existence of the empire very fragile. But Michael, what does this have to do with stamps, you might ask? Well, how do you issue stamps that represent the interests of so many different kinds of people? The answer to that is, you don't. This specific set commemorates the 60th anniversary of the accession of Franz Joseph. You could easily imagine what the subjugated populations of the various countries within the empire thought of the celebrations. It certainly was not positive. Not only were the celebrations of this event seen as distasteful by the population, but the stamps as well. The landscape issues were seen as Austria, reminding the other nations within the borders of the empire that it is the center of power. Joseph II, who is featured in the series, alienated the Hungarians by making German the official language, and Francis I was responsible for many defeats during the Napoleonic Wars. The cherry on the cake, though, was that every stamp had the inscription Kaiserliche
Königliche Österreichische Post.
Yeah, let's just skip trying to pronounce this. For our German speakers, this inscription might seem normal to you. However, it lacks the word und, meaning that the stamps don't mention the Kingdom of Hungary at all, which was seen as highly disrespectful. Next up, I received a set of 3 stamps that commemorate the 100th anniversary of Danube River steamship navigation. Each one features a different boat that traveled through the Danube River. However, what's really interesting about this set is the topic that it represents, since Bulgaria, the country that I chose to specialize in, had a contract with an Austrian steamship company that would carry mail on these traveling post offices along the same river from 1881 up until the start of the First World War. There's some very interesting Bulgarian postal history that can be found, which has unique cancels from these steamships. Our next stamp was issued during a more dark and grim part of Austria's history. Austria was directly influenced by Germany in the 1930s and would be annexed by the Third Reich in 1938. Its factories and population would be used for the war effort until 1945, when the Soviet Union invaded Austria, bringing us to the next stamp. Issued in 1946, commemorating the USSR-Austria Friendship Congress, where talks on the economy and culture took place. I couldn't find much information regarding what was discussed during this Congress, but what I did find was quite shocking regarding the post-war economy of Austria. The occupation was clearly horrible. Not only was the country in ruin due to the war, but now it had to deal with the Soviet Union confiscating $500 million worth of industrial equipment. Clearly, the friendship wasn't as strong as the stamp made it out to be. It would be another 9 years from 1946 before they would obtain their independence once again. During this time, the Allied denazification efforts were well underway. Issued in 1946, these stamps commemorate the Niemals Vergessen, or in English, the Never Forget exhibition. The series exhibits the horrors of anti-Semitism and the price Austria had to pay for adopting National Socialism. While it is a sensitive subject to talk about, I chose to feature it because of the 2 Groschen stamp, which shows the Austrian eagle rising from the flames of Nazism. Furthermore, an interesting philatelic tidbit regarding this set: there are 2 stamps that were made but never issued. The Allies thought that they were too graphic, so if you'd like to add them to your collection, be ready to spend a lot of money, since most ended up being destroyed. Thankfully, the rest of the set is affordable. My favorite thing about Austrian stamps is that they pretty much kept their charm of the 1920s, even during the post-World War II occupation era. The design styles stay pretty much the same, and they have topics that I'm surprised were even approved, such as the 1947 Prisoners of War charity stamps. Seeing as how the denazification programs established by the Allies were well underway, it's amazing that there are sets that were approved with the goal of helping Austrian prisoners of war. I'd like to conclude this video on a more positive note. So the last stamps that I'll be talking about in this episode are from this 1957 architecture set. Upon receiving these, I was a bit confused. I didn't know why Andrew sent me 3 of the same stamps. However, each one is different. Even though I specialize in a country, I've yet to start collecting shades or different printing methods, so this is all very new to me. Going back to the stamps though, you can see that one is easier to tell apart due to the color. However, the other 2 I was stumped and had to ask for help. Turns out, both were made using 2 different printing methods. One is a typographic and the other lithographic. Figuring this out is easier than it seems too. Just look at the details, especially the door of the church. Typography has a more messier and blotchy look, while the offset lithography stamp has more details and finer lines. So, that about wraps up all the interesting Austrian stamps that I received from my friend Andrew. Be sure to check out his blog. I'll be posting it down in the links below. Also, let me know what your favorite Austrian stamps are in the comments section. My name is Michael, and this was a Feature Philately episode. Thank you.